Interlude, Spirit Quest. The darkness pulses around you as you stumble through the corridor of the abandoned mall. You half dive, half stumble into the dark storefront, convinced the saints are right behind you. You topple over a display and a cash register, and the sound echoes interminably in the darkness. They're almost upon you. You can feel them breathing down your neck. In the depths of the empty store, you find a door ajar, and you tumble through into the darkness beyond. Suddenly, there's no floor, no walls, only an endless falling into a black void. As you float in the void, your awareness fills with the sensation of your body, muscle sliding across bone, fur rustling over skin, the alien sensation of fabric constricting your body. You want to tear the clothes from your body, its touch is unnatural and turns your stomach. Before you can move to do so, you feel a pulsing light, a warmth in the darkness. Something shares the void with you. The air fills with the scent of something primal, a musky, bestial odor that's out of place in any city. You blink, and the light resolves into a giant bear, a bear without the modified skull and limbs of a Moreau, a bear as it must have appeared in nature some time long ago, except for the fact that it is easily twice or 3 times your size, and looms over your supine form, its massive forepaws sinking into the earth on each side of your shoulders. It leans its face down to meet yours, a massive, distorted reflection of your own, missing all the veneer of civilization. Its fur is matted with mud, or blood, and it considers you as if it might reach down and tear out your throat. You feel your heart hammer and you dig your claws into the earth below you. You realize somehow you're on a forest floor, staring up into the eyes of your own feral doppelganger. How will you serve me? It speaks in some way beyond language. The words falling on you like rocks from a great height. A thread of saliva drips from its mouth onto your cheek. How will you serve me? It repeats, and you are compelled to answer in kind, without words. I don't want to serve anybody. Serve no one sounds good. Rip out the liver of my enemies sounds dumb. Save the innocent sounds eh. Bring justice to the wicked sounds cool, so I'm debating between bringing justice to the wicked or serving no one. I'm gonna go and serve no one, because I'm feeling particularly rebellious today. Within you, you feel a supernatural swell of resolve. You can face anything, do anything. In the core of your being, you know that you are sufficient to any challenge man, Moreau, or the universe itself can throw your way. The giant bear looming over you growls lowly, and you're unsure if it's satisfied with your answer or not. The unvoiced words hit you again, demanding an answer. What do you love? The answer comes unconsciously, without hesitation. Oh, I think I can hesitate on this, watch me. We got my neighborhood, my friends, my species, my life. What do I love? In the neighborhood. In the neighborhood. I don't have any friends. I don't feel like I have a neighborhood. I technically have a species, but I'm not super loving of it. Like, I mean, I guess my life is the option, the most palatable option to this thing. The question from the giant bear makes you aware as you've never been before that the most important thing to you has always been your own skin. Whatever the world throws at you, your own well-being is at the center of your universe. The giant bear shakes its head, splattering more drool on your face. You wonder if you disappointed it with your answer. For some reason, you want very much to give it the answers it wants. No, I don't. You look into the eyes of the feral giant and understand what the saints might be praying to. It isn't finished with you. One more question falls from it, like an avalanche of thought. Why are you here? To understand you and the damn saints, to understand why this is happening to me, to understand what's happening in the city, to understand how to prevent more people getting hurt. We're gonna go with the last one, to understand how to prevent more people getting hurt. Some of these answers I'm giving are contradictory, but contextually I feel like they're the appropriate answers for this roleplay. You stare into the eyes of the bear above you, looking for some sort of answer. None seems forthcoming. Instead, the mall begins reassembling itself around you, bare forest earth returning to become the concrete floor you are sprawled upon. The atavistic musk of the giant bear replaced by the smell of cordite and human sweat. Your pulse races, and you have difficulty catching your breath. Everything about your vision is still razor sharp, vivid to every sense to the point that here, reality feels shallow and dreamlike. Your brain feels different, as if the experience has changed you on some fundamental level. You feel a horribly intense desire for another dose, and an equally intense feeling that a second such journey would be a very bad idea. It takes you several minutes to acknowledge the cop shining the light down on you. When you do, you're very careful to keep your shaking hands visible. This was the drug that makes me go bestial, right? So theoretically, I just spent some amount of time more or less behaving like a natural, quote, bear. Well, I guess the cop will tell us what rampage we wreaked or not in Chapter 11, Planning for the Apocalypse. The cops are ominously dressed in matte black paramilitary gear, and they carry rifles that look as if they'd be more at home on a battlefield. One of them comes over and waves some sort of detector over you. While the human cop is probably looking for weapons, he makes do with liberating you from your phone. Once that cop gives the all clear, a pair flanks you and one gestures to you with the barrel of his weapon. Move that way. They direct you across the parking lot toward the densest knot of police vehicles. As you approach, you notice some unsettling things. First, the cops in black paramilitary garb don't have police written across their backs. Instead, they have the initials DHS. And despite the red and blue flashers, most of the vehicles are unmarked black SUVs. Dominating everything are the pair of black APCs that wouldn't have looked out of place in that mural with the Morey soldiers in Pakistan. Your DHS escort leads you to a pen behind one of the giant 6-axle personnel carriers. The pen is made from a dozen 3-meter square mesh panels, each bearing a large yellow and black warning sign in the middle. You don't have to read the fine print because the large red lightning bolt makes the rest of the sign superfluous. Even without the warning, the ozone smell from the panels is enough warning in itself. They usher you into the pen with a half-dozen other Moros. The numbers alone make it clear that most of the gathering has managed to escape. The fact that none were the colors of the Saints or even the weird getup you saw on the rats suggests that for all the cops and DHS agents crawling all over the place, they haven't collared anyone of any significance to the Shining One's plans. Okay, we can demand to talk to Toomey. That's not going to work. Need to get out of here and look for some escape. Question the other folks in here before the DHS goons get to them. See if they know any details about what's going on. Yeah, let's do that one. You find a likely suspect in a timid-looking cat hanging by the edge of the crowd. You walk up to him and ask him what the hell's going on. Why? Why would I know anything? After a little more cursing about the human cops, you get this story from the cat. Apparently, he had run afoul of his own set of weird rats, probably the same ones you'd met. He'd been attracted by the anti-pink sentiments. Pretty much the opposite attitude of David's Unity Center Rally for Peace. This cat would probably be all for setting off a bomb there. However, he also doesn't have any more details. You're about to look for another detainee to question when you realize that all these folks are probably random recruits sharing only an anti-human sentiment. That's driven home to you when the crowd starts shouting at the DHS guards and someone hurls a chunk of broken asphalt at the fence. It hits with a shower of sparks. In moments, you're caught up in a near riot. People yelling and hurling rocks, and someone on the DHS side yelling inarticulate orders through a bullhorn. You can use the riot as a distraction to sneak out of the other side of the fence. The riot's going to push out of here. I try to escape when they break the perimeter, or hang back, hands in view, so I'm not mixed up in all this. I'm going to do the first one. Let's try and sneak out of here. You rush to the side of the pen opposite the angry rock-throwing Moros. The asphalt here is in an even rougher shape, broken so badly that in places it's barely chunks resting on the dirt where the weeds grow through. Underneath one panel, the surface has buckled up in 2 places, leaving a shallow depression under the electrified panel. The gap's barely a hand's breadth, but the surface underneath is loose and crumbling and can be cleared. Just beyond, partly hidden by one of the oversized tires of an APC, is a sinkhole into what you suspect is a storm sewer. You flop on your belly and start scrambling to dig out the gap under the fence. As you rush to clear the space, you push the broken asphalt to either side of the trench, raising up the buckled areas under the panel even higher. Behind you, there's the crack of a warning shot, the sizzle of electricity, and the smell of burning fur. You shove yourself through even though you think you barely have clearance. You feel an agonizing jolt as you move under the fence, and it touches your hip. You shout in involuntary pain, but fortunately your clothes are insulating enough to prevent your muscles from seizing and stopping your forward motion. But you hear shouts and running boots that announce you've no longer remained unnoticed. At least one shot powders a chunk of asphalt a half-meter from your face as you scramble between 2 APCs and drop into the dark hole, into the remains of the storm sewer. You run through the concrete culvert beneath the parking lot, and after more than a few minutes in darkness, you figure you're headed back to the mall proper. At some point, you take a step through a broken wall and find yourself in a dimly lit concrete utility tunnel, and follow that for what seems like a kilometer before you stop and listen for any sign of pursuit. For several tense moments, you're perfectly still. You don't even breathe. It seems you've left all the cops and DHS agents far behind you. After another 100 meters, you find a ladder up into the basement of an abandoned building. You climb up into the remains of a long-abandoned liquor store, and you push a plywood sheet aside to step out into full daylight. Oh, daylight. You're going to have to do something about the attack the Saints are planning, and you don't have much time. You need to get some sort of help. Lucy and the running dogs sounds super not likely to work out. Chris Westbrook would definitely help. Both Chris Westbrook and David Turre would help me, but I don't know how much power they have. Theoretically, David Turre has set up some sort of security for the rally, so he can redouble that or something. Let's go to David Turre. Also, we don't want to talk to Chris Westbrook because she's been a little flirty, and I don't like her that way. It's still early, so you go to the address that David left with your change of clothes in the hospital. It may be a vain hope, but you'd like to catch him before he goes to the rally. His house, predictably, is near the Unity Center on a residential side street that has rows of narrow, old houses from the last century, pressed together between narrow driveways and tiny fenced-in lawns. David's is a 2-story colonial with a sand-gravel zen garden in place of a lawn behind the chain-link fence. The gate in the fence is open to a series of slate step stones leading to the front porch. You notice the driveway is empty. You walk past the zen garden to knock on the front door. You knock for several minutes, but there's no response. David must be at the rally. You should be there as well. Okay, let's do that. Chapter 12, Blowing Up, Peace and Love. You head to the site of the rally for peace. Even if you didn't have the address from David's flyers, the signs tacked up on light poles would be enough to direct you. You walk past the Unity Center and across a vacant lot in the shadow of a burnt-out warehouse. The place serves as a parking lot now, cars crowding each other and huddling against the crumbling walls, and the hulks of abandoned vehicles making their home in the weeds. Then, past the burnt-out warehouse, you're on the street across from the rally. You might not be that far from David's Unity Center, but you sense you're outside the unofficial boundaries of Moreytown now, though that may just be the sense you get in the presence of this many humans. It's a lot bigger than you expected. The first thing to hit you is the smell of thousands of humans and non-humans mingling, mixing with the miasma from a dozen different food trucks. The rally proper fills out a parking lot nestled in the embrace of a U-shaped strip mall that appears over 100 meters on a side. This mall seems to have fared better than the one where the Shining One held his own gathering. More than half the shops appear to still be in business. The edges of the rally, not defined by retail shops, are marked by large food trucks and police vehicles. Deep in the base of the U, on the opposite side of the crowd from you, a large stage has been set up. The rally hasn't officially started yet, but the crowd has already spilled out of the secured parking lot, blocking traffic and crowding your side of the street. As you go through the police checkpoint, you look at the surging crowd and wonder how the cops think they can secure this area. You can see a half-dozen ways in around the obvious checkpoint between the food trucks. Through the retail shop in the mall, through the alley between the buildings, the few cops you see moving through the crowd don't seem nearly enough to keep an eye on every way in. It seems even more overwhelming when you wonder what you'll be able to do. You find the administrative setup for the rally by the stage end of the thing. In an otherwise empty storefront that's been draped over with a Unity Center banner. Inside, a bunch of folding tables have been set up, each with a hand-lettered sign reading, Information, Security, Programming, Lost and Found. You see David over by the information table. You call over to him. "Foe!" David greets you. "With all the craziness going on, I was afraid you weren't going to make it." David grasps your hand in both of his and shakes it vigorously before breaking off to say something to a Leoprine Moreau wearing oversized corrective lenses with bright red frames. He pats you on the back. "You can guess I'm a little overwhelmed here." "I can see." "Laura here can get you checked in. I have a dozen things to take care of right now." He clasps your uninjured shoulder and says, "See you after the rally." He leaves you with the rabbit, who picks up a tablet. "Foe? What are you volunteering for?" You look away from the rabbit, hunting for David, but he's already disappeared. Tell her David wants me to help with security. Stage might offer better vantage. No. Just playing a poker on my own. No. Let's do the security thing. "Go over there and look at you set up." She points over a couple of tables down. You walk over to the table marked Security. Behind the table is an elderly lion with gnarled fingers and a graying mane that seems to have lost a couple of fist-sized patches of hair. He coughs and spins a tablet in your direction. "Sign," he orders you. You run your finger along the highlighted rectangle and he takes the tablet back. He slides over a laminated badge, a folded sheet of paper, and a small clip on radio. "You're Blue 6. "I'm what?" "Blue 6. You're the 6th person walking the blue quadrant. Look at the map." You glance at it and see that the rally has been sliced up into 5 color-coded areas. Blue, yellow, green, red, and orange. Blue sticks you up front by the cops checkpoint and food trucks. "Read the other side so you don't screw up." You see a bulleted list of what your security duties actually are. A lot of them amounted to don't hit people and call the cops. The little radio put you in contact with the rest of the security team and the cops. The badge comes on a lanyard and you drop it around your neck, making you official. Booyah. Do as I'm asked and head out of the food truck. Have a better chance to pick up any saints as I patrol along the small shops. I'm gonna check out around the area by the stage. I'm gonna do as I asked. Do as I'm asked, I think. I don't really have any predilection as to what I think is the most likely avenue of attack right now. By the food trucks, you have a good vantage on both the police checkpoints and on shops along this side of the mall. You'll see anyone trying to go through the checkpoint itself, anyone slipping through between the ranks of food trucks, or anyone coming through any of the stores by this end of the mall. Yes. At this point, you realize that what happens has more to do with the cops dispersed around the rally, but you watch intently as if you're the only one here. It isn't long before you see a familiar face. The white rat from the weird trio of proselytizing rodents emerges from the door of a Japanese noodle shop 3 shops down from you. You know any confrontation could result in you blowing up along with the rat. I don't want to blow up. Not gonna tackle him. Sneak up and take him out quietly, grab him and talk him out of this, alert authority to the white rat's location, and look for more saints. Will authorities believe me? I am inclined to think that authorities are a little racist. But what if I'm wrong? What if he's not a suicide rat? What if he's just a scout? I don't think any of these plans have a terribly good chance of being successful in any way that I want them to be. I'm going to alert the authorities though, because there are at least 2 other rats out there for sure. You start whispering frantically to whatever other people on David's security team you can reach with the little clip-on radio the old lion gave you at the security table. Whoever's listening, I have a white rat and an oversized grey windbreaker. I think he's wearing a suicide vest. You provide a detailed description of his location while you're busy hunting for the next saint. Almost immediately, you catch a whiff of the chemical smell you're associating with their explosive vest. You recognize the overweight capybara as one of the saints that hung around your building. The guy is named Slug, and it's almost surreal seeing him as a terrorist suicide bomber. He never seemed to have the energy for that sort of thing. You radio in his location even as you notice another. The saints are coming from all directions. You keep pushing through the crowd, finding more of them. You've lost track of how many you've called in when, behind you, someone yells, "You betrayed the Shining One!" You whip around and face another rat from the weird trio, the black one this time. He's only 5 meters away and is already reaching for the pocket in his oversized windbreaker. Confronting him would be risking your life, and he's only seconds away from blowing up both of you. I don't think he's the suicide type. I don't think we can talk him out of it either. Let's just jump him. Jump him. You dive at him, hoping to beat his hand to his pocket. You rush him head on. The rat tries to dodge your attack, but to your surprise, a pair of vaguely familiar felines wearing Unity Center t-shirts emerge from the crowd to block the rat's escape. He lets out a squeak of pain as you slam into him. His hands move back toward his oversized jacket, and the cats seize his arms as you slam a fist into his temple, knocking him out. As the cats support him, you frantically search for the trigger, hoping to disarm the lumpy explosive vest you feel under the windbreaker. One of the cats asks, "This guy, he's like that rabbit at the Unity Center, right?" You're interrupted before you can answer. A cop runs up, gun drawn, yelling, "What's going on here?" The cat lets go of the rat, and his limp form sprawls on the asphalt in front of you, hands raised. The cats back away from you, the rat and the cop. You've been too focused on finding saints to notice the chaos surrounding you. The knots of cops and security converging on people has started a rippling panic that's just being felt. If this human cop has noticed your security lanyard, he's chosen to ignore it. You raise your hands yourself and back off the rat. You open your mouth to explain, but that's when all hell breaks loose. Somewhere, out of your line of sight, you hear multiple gunshots. The sound is almost instantly overwhelmed by the sounds of shouting and screaming from the massive crowd. The people surge suddenly around you, separating you from the scene with the cats, the rat, and the cop. You stumble backwards and end up taking a knee on the asphalt, the crowd breaking around you. Then you hear the explosion. And then another. Oh crap, you think it's happening. Well, I guess I failed, assuming this is what it seems like. Oh, this is an early game oversight, isn't it? God dang it. Some good Samaritan helps you to your feet and hustles you away from a cluster of smoke pillars rolling up into the sky. You glance at the person next to you and see it's the human cop, gun still drawn but pointed to the ground as he maneuvers you with his other hand. There's another explosion, and something somewhere is burning. You pass through a cloud of opaque black smoke blowing across the crowd. Briefly blinded, everything is the smell of burning food trucks and the sound of screams and smashing glass. By the time you're out of the smoke, you're across the street from the remains of the rally. The sight is something out of a war zone. Several food trucks are on fire, and there's nothing but a crater where the main checkpoint had been. Windows all along the either side of the mall had been shattered by the explosions or by the surge of people trying to escape. Every other person you see is marred by soot or blood, some screaming and staggering as they hold wrecked parts of their bodies. Worse, even from where you stand, you see people laying on the asphalt, unmoving. Many wear David's Unity t-shirts as if in some cruel joke. The Samaritan cop whispers, "Well, we're fucked." You're inclined to agree. Epilogue. After the rally for peace, you find yourself corralled by the cops and DHS along with hundreds of other unhurt witnesses. You are left waiting for hours for someone to interview you about what happened. You don't know how long, since as soon as you sit down, lack of sleep and the crash from an adrenaline high means you fall instantly asleep until a cop wakes you up for questioning. The cop takes you to a trailer with an interview room where Detective Toomey is waiting for you. As he questions you, you get a full picture of what happened at the rally. Your effort to point out the incoming saints didn't seem to have had much payoff. The rally for peace was a tragic disaster. The damned saints managed to push their way far enough inside to kill dozens and wound hundreds. Even more were killed from the panicked rush to escape than from their initial attack. Among the dead were 20 humans, turning the damned saints into a high-profile terrorist threat. It's all enough to kill David's dream of humans and non-humans working together. The Unity Center is shuttered for good. The Shining One claims victory, and the remaining saints become a full-fledged terrorist mastermind. It is unlikely that this will be the last the humans hear of him and his cult. It takes a couple of days for the cops to process all of you. You are stashed with several dozen other Moros in a Red Cross shelter somewhere between protective custody and preventative detention. When you're finally processed out of that mess, Chris Westbrook catches up with you. "How are you holding up?" she asks. "About as well as can be expected." "About as well as can be expected," you answer. She smiles weakly at you. "You might be interested in how this story is playing out." "Yes?" She lays out what her coverage in the rest of the media has been like. Apparently, Chris Westbrook leads the coverage of the damned saints and their devastating attack on the rally for peace. Chris's stories on the ground about the rally and the aftermath are going viral, picked up by most major outlets. Her stories are unquestionably pro-Moreau, even in the face of the attack. They go against the grain of most media coverage, focusing less on the violence and more on David's vision of Moro-human cooperation, and his work with the Unity Center and the Rally for Peace. In the aftermath of the damned saints' devastating attack on the rally, her journalism is one of the few positive influences. Your contribution as a source is one of those things making the coverage positive for human-Moro relations, not to mention raising your profile in your own neighborhood. "So there we are," she says. "There we are," you say. "I thought you deserved to be up to speed on this." "Thanks. Take care of yourself," she says by way of goodbye. Once you're finally free to go, you hear about what's happened with David Turre from the Unity Center. David Turre has seen the collapse of the Unity Center and the ultimate repudiation of his dream of humans and Moros coexisting and working together. Perhaps it's a suspicion he saw in the cops and feds at every form of Moro organization after the attack, or it was in the way the cops from the DHS are starting to raid indiscriminately through Moreytown in the aftermath. But something's shifted in David's perception. Once, where he saw cooperation as the goal, now he sees separation and solidarity as the way for Morays to survive. In the terms of the Human Justice Service, he's become radicalized. You're left with the decision of where you're going to live now. The only option is to find my own apartment, because I flirted with neither of these two, and I like that decision. But after all the chaos subsides, you actually manage to manage to be gainfully employed. I guess I'll work for Chris. Tubi didn't like my source. Oh, screw him. Chris Westbrook has been established as a working relationship with you. To your surprise, you evolve from a source to sharing a byline. Apparently there's not a lot of news sources that are actually non-human, and a few outlets want the novelty of your point of view. Your newfound talent for communication helps your work become popular, and correspondingly lucrative. With that income, you manage to find a rundown apartment that isn't much worse than your place in the Essex Arms. Over the subsequent months, the aftermath makes itself felt on your neighborhood. Moreytown, life goes on. Human-Moro relations are as bad and as good as they've ever been. Law enforcement is suspicious of non-humans, and the non-humans return the favor. After a few months of heightened alert, the DHS withdraws and the police presence returns to normal, more or less. David's dream for unity and coexistence doesn't seem any closer than it was before the rally, but it seems things are going to change with time. Interesting. Like, things were like a bad ending until this last bit. The end. Oh, I'm recommending this game to a friend. Yeah, that's a little weird to have at the end like this. So game-wise, actually, let's see what stats we got. Show me my stats. You have a very good relationship. She's my friend. Right, money. I am mortally wounded. I didn't even know I was mortally wounded. I have a very good relationship. These are very good, but they wouldn't offer me jobs. An indifferent relationship. That's really funny, because he was the one I was trying to build a relationship with the most. Good, that's cool. So I think if I was going to play this over again, like if I was going to rewind this to the first decision I want to change, I would, instead of having gone to David Ture's house before the rally, I would have tried to bring the alphas in as extra muscle to see what would have happened. Stats. What do these mean? Oh, pink versus feral. I was slightly more pink than feral. Slightly more citizen than anarchist. 50-50 altruism, individualism. Pretty more conspicuous than unobtrusive. Oops. My attack skill and ability to deal damage was quite high. My speed was crap. My size and strength were good. I assume that's completely based off of this sort of stuff, as opposed to my decisions. Reputation. That's fine. Lethality, bad. Prison. Yeah, these. I had little ability to affect change in the world. Okay, so right now, I don't think I intend to record more of this game. I may click around a bit on my own just to try and get some different endings, but I don't know how successful I'd be, so I'm not planning on recording any of it right now. If there's something specific you want me to try, or something that you've seen that you want me to see too, let me know. Give me hints without spoiling it, I guess, and I will make that happen gladly. Because this is a good game. I liked this story a lot. It was engaging. I don't think there's a single character that I thought was like stupid or poorly written. Like everything just kind of clicked together very well and kind of refreshing. The only thing I change about this game. Let's go to the menu. Let's see what happens. If we go to the menu. Okay, menu's not that great. The only thing I would change is, and this is what I change about pretty much every game, is I'd love to have a restart function that, you know, wasn't a full restart, that let me rewind to whatever, like, basically page or choice I wanted to, so I wouldn't have to replay through a bunch of the beginning and make the same decisions over and over and over and over again to choose a different decision at the end. And that's basically, if I could rewind to any decision, I would absolutely for sure be recording more right now. But because of that, it's a big time sink. So, good game. I recommend it if you like this style of game. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in whatever game comes next. Signature catchphrase.